Welcome to the Professional Website Investor Podcast, the show where we talk about what it takes to successfully buy, operate, scale, and sell a thriving e-commerce business. When it comes to doing business online, we believe that buying an existing website is far superior to building one from scratch. So, if you're a career professional who is looking to become an e-commerce store owner, listening to this show will give you the knowledge, tools, and community support you need to be successful.
I'm your host, Ryan Cowden, and this week we're joined by Ian Bond from ProfessionalWebsiteInvestors.com. In this episode of the Professional Website Investor Podcast, Ian and I discuss why it's best for you to focus your investments on websites that do physical goods e-commerce. Once you've decided to get involved in website investing, it can be confusing to know what types of websites and markets you should target. There are several types of markets and business models you can search for, and several factors to consider. You may be wondering if one model is easier or safer than the others. You may also be considering whether you should focus on one type or diversify your projects. In this episode, Ian makes the case that you should center your attention on websites that focus on physical goods e-commerce. In Ian's experience, websites with an established presence buying and selling physical goods are easy to learn, safe to invest in, and have a clear path to profit. In this episode, you'll learn about what the physical goods e-commerce market looks like right now. Second, you'll hear about the main benefits of focusing on physical goods. We're all online shoppers these days, but we still need physical goods, and many people go online specifically to buy physical goods, so this is a wide open market. Third, you should consider finding a niche within the physical goods e-commerce market. Look for one with good profit margins, and go specific while many others are going broad. Fourth, you'll hear the problems with other e-commerce models, fulfilled by Amazon or FBA, and software as a service or SaaS, are riskier, less secure, and harder models to make a profit with. And finally, you'll hear the importance of finding a mentor to guide your efforts. Don't forget to invest in yourself. This is an episode you surely won't want to miss. There's a lot of actionable advice in this episode, so grab something to write with because you're going to want to take notes. As always, I'll be back on the other side to wrap up any loose ends. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Ian Bond. All right, Ian, welcome back to the podcast. How you been?
Ryan, it's great to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. So we're talking about why people should focus on physical goods when they set up their online websites today. So
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, let's jump right in here. What kind of physical products are we talking about?
So I have a theory on the retail world, and I won't go into the minutia, but where we focus on are what we call high ticket items, and that's anything at the very low end. That's $500 to, for us, the bulk of the things we sell are between $1,000 and $2,500. Our average order is, right around $1,100. And if I were to tell you where I would skew towards in the future, I would skew towards even higher prices than that.
Okay. So just to give people kind of a framework, when we're talking about physical goods, just what are we talking about?
Americans are crazy about their homes, and so anything that you look around, and see in your home. So let's just back up, okay? Why do we choose high ticket? And what are some of the things you should think about? First of all, the dollar margins in high ticket are good, and you pay Google dollars, not percentages, when you're buying advertising. So if you can earn $60 or $100 or $150 or more on an item when you sell it, that's a very good thing. So your average dollar profit per transaction is what pays the light bills. It's not having great percentage margins. And we own and failed at a store that had wonderful margins, but sold trinkets. So we want things that have good dollar margins. We want things that people will pull a credit card out readily and buy. people above $500 to $2,000 will do that. And we want things that are branded, but they don't have the brand affinity. It's something like, Apple, or, a brand affinity that, where you compete, with people that must have that define themselves by that brand. And if you look around your household, most people wouldn't live or die by the brands of things that they have in their household. And we operate in almost every room in the household. So I can tell you that when something is out of stock, oftentimes we have a suggestion of something that is in stock, and you might imagine that people will switch pretty quickly their brand affiliation when they want something. They have a contractor coming and they need it, and we can show someone a good reason, because of price or functionality or both or whatever, aesthetics, that they should buy something else. They'll switch pretty quickly. They wouldn't do that with an iPhone or something that's really branded. So we have branded suppliers. They're just not of the ilk that, the major fashion houses or a lot of electronics folks are at.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yes, that's the reason.
Sure. I think this is such a good topic, because I think when people think e-commerce, they think, well, I need to go super digital or something, but people still need physical goods. They're just buying them online, right?
Yeah. Look, we have a contribution on our site from a friend of the site, Jock Pirtle at Digital Experts, Digital Exits, and he does an analysis in the one that we published, his 10-year study of the growth of different monetization models in online business models. Mm-hmm. And far and away, e-commerce is the largest model out there. So it's enormous. And so as a buyer, as a website investor, you have an enormous opportunity to look at a lot of different things. And only by looking at different ideas can you find what Warren Buffett would term that perfect pitch that comes down the plate that you want to take a swing at, because you don't have to do anything. Now that's not true in some of the the nichier strategies where you've tweaked your requirements so high that you don't see things very frequently. So
okay, great. So there's a huge opportunity. What are the other benefits or positives of focusing on physical goods?
Well, I think physical goods, we're all online shoppers, I think the one thing that everyone listening to this has as a skill set is the ability to look at a website and say, it's pretty or it's not pretty. And, I trust it or I don't trust it, or the product description or the collection description is good and helpful, or it's not. The advice was good or it was non-existent. And then ultimately, the customer service is good. I think that this is akin to buying a home, or, it's akin to the way people have a natural affinity or natural ability to judge real estate. And I think, Ryan, if you're in Indiana right now, if you and I were parachuted into some foreign city, we could probably figure out the real estate market. It wouldn't take us forever because we've got some skill set in that, just because, we've looked at apartments and homes before. And I think that for most people, online shopping is, like real estate.
When people are looking to get into selling and buying physical goods, do you recommend finding a niche within that market, like a specific type of physical good that you focus on, or should it be a variety of goods?
Yeah, excellent question. The reality is that the way the online world is stratified is that you have the bricks and mortar people that have an online presence. So think of Home Depot in the household area, as might be a competitor.
Okay.
Home Depot has grown up, as a bricks and mortar place, but their online business they spend a lot of time on it, and it's an increasing percentage of their sales, and they do that. Then there are specialty online retailers that have been gotten to be huge. And you go to the National Kitchen and Bath Association and look at who some of the members are. And you'll see people that get 5,000 visitors a day, and they've been doing this for over 20 years. And they have huge reputations, but they are very entrenched and, maybe not so specialized. There's one that I skipped in there, which is the online only superstores. They sell everything online. So Wayfair, for example. Mm-hmm. And so, there's the Home Depots, there's the Wayfairs, then there's the specialty guy, then there's the online only guys that are very broad. And then there's where we operate, which is in very specific niches. And so we want to provide people with a great selection and be very relevant for exactly what they're looking for, so that they don't get lost on our site looking for, being distracted by things that they're not looking for or confused by them. And where we can offer, incredible amount of information, everything from diagrams to videos, have a learning center that's focused on exactly what they'd be interested in, and go incredibly deep in something that's very specific, as opposed to everybody else that's going very broad. And then we can be that destination. And we have several tenets that we operate on, which we'll talk at another time on how we accomplish that. That's a different conversation. But that's the way the retail world works in a nutshell. And that's the opportunity, I think, for investors. I mean, you can go buy Home Depot stock, but if you really want to buy an e-commerce website, a physical goods e-commerce website, look for a niche where you can dominate that niche and where the products sell at a very high price. And, you have, really good dollar margins to reinvest in your business. That's the holy grail right there.
Okay. So did you know the niche that you were looking for when you got in, or did you kind of try some different things and see what worked?
Well, I mean, I think that's the interesting thing about buying a business as opposed to building a business, right? Okay. Right. So if you are going to build a business, you start walking around, maybe furniture stores or, something that I didn't mention. People are very passionate also. Americans will pull out their credit card for everything around their house because Americans are crazy for their houses. They're also very passionate about their hobbies. So, and, things for their kids and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that people will pull a credit card out very readily for, but the builders would, start with the niche selection. Buyers would start with, hey, what are the financial characteristics that I'm looking for? Okay. Do I want higher prices or do I want lower prices? Do I want it to be advice intensive, or do I want it to, sell like a commodity, like something might sell on Amazon where, you don't really get much, you get no advice, you get some information, so, buyers look for, kind of the profile of the target they're looking for, and they're almost agnostic for what it'll be. Now, after you've looked at enough sites, you'll start to see some of the same niches, over a period of time. Okay. So I know a lot about a lot of niches that we don't own stores in because I've seen deals in them, and I know who might be executing well, who's not executing well. I even know some of the suppliers already, but we don't deal with them because we don't own anything in that space.
Okay. Interesting.
So it's a different way it's a different framework. It's a different way to come at it.
It is. Yeah. Okay, great. Let's kind of shift over to the other side of here. Why are you recommending that people not go into some of these other business models, these other e-commerce models?
Okay, so specifically in my world, I get lots of questions on lots of different monetization models, I mentioned that physical goods e-commerce is the majority. It was 52% in the digital exits report. 52% of online businesses that were sold were e-commerce. Okay. Now there's another 7% that are FBA. And I get some questions about that. And then there's 12% that were SaaS sites. And I get an enormous number of questions about this 12%. So let me just, be a little bit controversial and say where I think I understand, high ticket physical goods. Mm-hmm. I do not think I understand the $19.99 to $79 FBA item that somebody might buy at Amazon or maybe in one of the aisles at Walmart. And I don't mean to disparage anybody. I just don't understand that. Now, I do know people that have been knocked off. They've had their listings hijacked. I do know people that, I do know a guy that had Amazon come in and call his supplier and take his FBA product from him. Okay. That's not going to happen in my world. Okay. All of our suppliers, none of our suppliers compete with us online. Okay.
Okay.
So I would tell you, and by the way, the old joke in the e-commerce world is no one's ever met, an FBA seller, who had any money. I mean, they're always broke. I mean, they're constantly reinvesting in inventory and scaling up until the day they sell. And that's a model that's fraught with, working capital issues. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now let me roll over to the number one, I wanted to cover the kind of, and by the way, I am looking at FBA. I look at FBA deals all the time. I would love to add FBA to my portfolio. So while I just disparaged it, I'm a deal junkie and I want to be involved with Amazon. I believe in it. And I've taken the negative side because of the way you framed your question. But now let me do the same with SaaS sites. The number one question is somebody will ping me and say that they're interested in SaaS sites, and I'll say
that's software as a service. Yeah,
software as a service, and I'll say, well, look, unless you're willing to commit a lot of money, you're not going to see a deal, and even if you are, you're probably not. Now, the bulk of these people have some kind of a technology background or think they do. Okay, and my problem with that is that you could come to me as, me being your potential partner, and you could tell me that you understand the tech platform that this SaaS business is built on, and you could sell me that all day long, and it might be believable. But the real important thing is what need is the service solving, and do you know that? Okay, yeah. I think you have to think about that. And not the tech platform. So, is somebody going to come in and step in front of you, and all of your customers are just going to leave? Now, a lot of SaaS sites have a lot of built-in pain for people that leave. People are the users have a lot invested, and that is a huge selling point. One of the reasons that people are so positive about SaaS sites. But I would tell you that there aren't any lower priced SaaS businesses for sale. There's an enormous competition. I was on a webinar the other night for a fund that's hoovering up as many that they can find. These deals just don't find their way onto most of the brokers' websites. Mm-hmm. So if you're a early buyer of, early in your career investing, you're just not going to see a deal that you should probably buy, number one. Number two, it's probably going to be fairly expensive. And number three, you've got this other issue that I just mentioned, which is, you're going to have to convince me that you understand what the end market is, and you should understand it if you're going to buy it. So, that's my problem. Now, let me give you something that I mentioned to SaaS buyers, which I think is highly relevant. There's a guy named an author named John Warlow. He wrote the epic book Built to Sell. He followed that book up with, and he said in his foreword to a book called The Automatic Customer, that he should have made half the book Built to Sell about how to convert to a business, building to selling with the selling in mind. Mm-hmm. He should have built in the end game is to have as much recurring revenue as possible. And that's what people are really looking for when they're looking for SaaS. And he goes through numerous different business models, everything from productized services to other continuity programs like membership community sites. These all have this very much the same characteristics of SaaS. And if you haven't read The Automatic Customer, we should put a link on the show notes to it. It's a wonderful book. And if you haven't read Built to Sell, do Built to Sell first and then The Automatic Customer. But if you're a relatively new buyer and you're looking for SaaS sites, you're not going to find one. Okay. It's just not, I can show you on a weekly basis physical good e-commerce sites. And, you could say, well, Ian, you're out of the loop, guilty as charged. But I can tell you for sure that you can see physical goods e-commerce sites all day long. And it's very rare to see a SaaS site. Broaden your horizons out if you're a SaaS buyer and start to think about, other things that might have continuity income, or what exactly it is that you might be able to do. Look, we're looking in our physical goods e-commerce sites of building in continuity income when somebody buys something. If they, and when we look at businesses, we say, what are the natural things that someone might need on a regular basis? That's very attractive. So we're looking for that. They're hard to find though.
Okay, great. And then one thing that you mentioned that was really important to you is finding a mentor.
Well, yeah. So your single best investment's in yourself. And I bought way too many courses that I've never completed, but where I think I've gotten something out of them. I'm involved in communities and I have coaches and believe in coaching. And, this online investing thing, you're in your head all day long looking at stuff. You can just, you don't have to do this alone. There are great resources out there and that you can tap into. And, that's the best money that you'll spend. Whether that is attending conferences, whether that is to find a mentor, whether that is to be in a community, whether it is to buy courses, all of these things are things that you should be doing on. But there really is no substitute for having this kind of a conversation like you and I are having. Mm-hmm. And, finding someone where you go, what, I think that person, is speaking, kind of from the place that I come from. And, I could use some coaching. I currently have 2 coaches that I work with and, it's kind of keeps me accountable and absolutely, shortens the whole process for me on anything that I'm thinking about. I actually will be working on something for one of those coaches tomorrow because, quite frankly, I've been caught up, doing other things for 2 or 3 weeks and I'm behind. And, I know I'm accountable and I know that I'm also going to see that bill that, is going to come in, because I pay monthly and I won't give up my slot. That's for sure. So, I want to keep that guy. So
yeah, that's great. And it's also good hearing. I think we tend to think of mentoring as, vertical, and when you join these communities, there's a lot of horizontal mentoring that can happen too.
Yeah. I mean, and I always describe it as when you join a community, you're a lurker, and then occasionally, you'll watch what's going on in there, and then occasionally you contribute, and then you become most of these communities have leaderboards. Then you become one of these, studs that's on the leaderboard. You've got the most points for the week or the month or something like that. That you're never going to find me there, but I can tell you that what it costs to join a community, I don't care if it's $49 a month or $69 a month, one good piece of advice, one good referral pays for all of that forever. Okay. Right. Don't be one of these people that when you can join a community and you've got people that are diverse and they've been doing this and they live and breathe it, and there are people that are just ahead of you and there are people way ahead of you. You have nothing but upside.
Right. All right. That's about all the time we have. Thank you so much, Ian. That was really great.
That was exciting. Thanks so much for the time, and I think it's a great topic, and hopefully we'll get some comments on it. So thanks.
Okay. All right.
See you, Ryan.
All right, folks, there you have it. That wraps up my conversation with Ian Bond of Professional Website Investors. He shared a ton of valuable insights and advice today on why you should focus on physical goods e-commerce websites. We also shared some tools and resources, which will all be linked up in the show notes at professionalwebsiteinvestors.com. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please consider subscribing, sharing with a friend, or leaving us a review in your favorite podcast directory. Until next time, best of luck in all that you do, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Professional Website Investor Podcast.